The adult film actress at the center of former President Trump's New York criminal trial took the stand Tuesday. Stormy Daniels described her alleged sexual encounter with Trump in 2006 and why she accepted a $130,000 hush money payment. Trump's defense asked for a mistrial over her testimony, which the judge denied. CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman joins me now. Rikki, take me into the mind of the prosecutors as they've been trying to build this case block by block. Which block is Stormy Daniels in the case? Well,
Stormy Daniels should have been in the block that had to do with the fact that, yes, she had a sexual encounter with Donald Trump, and many years later, she looked to sell her story, hired a lawyer named Keith Davidson, entered into an agreement, and accepted $130,000 through her lawyer from Michael Cohen. That's the block. Because the entire group of charges, 34 felony charges, having to do with alleged falsification of business records, all have to do with an alleged cover-up of this crime, if you want to call it a crime. Paying hush money is not a crime.
Right.
Committing infidelity is not a crime. But it's the idea that Donald Trump allegedly wanted her to be silent so that it would not affect his chances in the 2016 election.
I'm going to get to the defense's effort to impeach her as a witness, but let's stick on the prosecution for a moment. If you are a prosecutor and Stormy Daniels is on the stand and Donald Trump has said he never had any encounter with her, and yet Stormy Daniels can cite chapter and verse, if that's the way to describe it, does that go to impeaching his credibility for the jury, who has to weigh whether the things that Donald Trump has said or that his lawyer says on his behalf are true or not?
It may or may not, but if I were the prosecutor, I've always believed that you put in the bare bones because you do not want to give the defense the ability to have a lengthy and very effective cross-examination. In this, to use your phrase, by putting in chapter and verse, which has this tawdry, salacious kind of almost sickening over amount of detail, it allowed a great lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer named Susan Necklace, to go after Stormy Daniels hammer and tongs. And that's something the prosecution did not need, but they created.
So it creates this air of, well, the story doesn't quite add up, and that might bleed out into the whole case. Is that essentially the problem?
Yes, the defense is looking for one juror, just one juror. So if the defense says, I don't really need all this detail, and I certainly don't need the threatening story about this anonymous man who came up to Stormy Daniels allegedly in a parking lot, who we cannot anywhere tie to Donald Trump. So some juror says, why did they have to go that far? I mean, that absolutely makes no sense. So if she's lying about that, does it mean that there's something that really doesn't seem right about the prosecutor's case?
Let me drive us all down to Florida. The judge there, Eileen Cannon, has indefinitely postponed the case. We don't know about a new date. One hasn't been set. Give me your sense. Donald Trump, delay has been one of his successful legal tactics in the past and in this case. So has he succeeded?
Well, he's succeeded. However, I know that Judge Cannon is getting a bad rap for this. There is no doubt that far and wide people are saying, well, of course she was going to do this.
But because she's a Trump appointee.
Yes, and because she has ruled in certain ways that are mysterious, to say the least. But nonetheless, when it comes to today, she has these really substantive motions that have to be decided. Plus, you've got to deal with the entire issue of how do you deal with classified records, getting them into the public domain that is before a jury. So the chances of this case ever going to trial before the November election were probably pretty slim to start.
Right. Documents so sensitive they can't be at trial, which is part of the allegation against Trump, that he kept documents that were so sensitive he shouldn't have them.
Exactly.
Rikki Klieman, it's a pleasure as always. Thanks for being
Sean.
here.